Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is going to be a fun one because we have the 2024 KTM RC390 and we have the Yamaha R3. Now these are both small displacement bikes, but they are also both a whole lot of fun. And full disclosure, I got to ride that one for a little while, like a good amount of time, just the other day, and I had forgotten how good it was. So what we're going to do in this review is we're going to talk about what you get in a very good entry-level small displacement bike and what you can get if you move up a little bit and if it's worth it for you, because I think a lot of people, including myself, kind of underrated that bike in your own heads. Now, I liked that bike before I rode it, but I'd forgotten how much fun it is. And if you think about having fun per dollar spent, that thing's incredible, but this is a step up, and it's a good example of what you can get when you look at entry-level bikes and want to stay in the small displacement and have a whole lot of fun, but what you can get when you move up from there. So in this review, it's not a spec for spec review. It's not a direct comparison because price-wise they're different. What it is a up-close look at what it's like to have an entry-level type small displacement bike that's a very good sport bike, and what you get when you move to something that has a bunch more features but stays in that same general displacement class. So I think this is going to be interesting. I hope you'll stick with me throughout because I think there's some interesting pieces about these. And if you're into small displacement bikes like I am, I think you'll find that these can offer all the enjoyment that you need, but one may be better for you than the other, and that's what will help you decide. So before we go too far with just these two bikes, I want to point out that there's a couple other bikes that are generally in this general class that I filmed on this channel. They're both Kawasaki bikes, and that's the new Ninja 500 and also the ZX4RR. Both those are Kawasaki's. ZX4RR, again, has more power than this, but it's more in this class of a super sport small bike. And then you have the Ninja 500, which is a larger displacement in this general class. So those are two other bikes worth considering that are on my channel. But these two, to me, are about making a point of what kind of money you spend and what you want to do to get a specific type of bike. So let's start with the Yamaha and work our way through with the KTM. All right, full disclosure, you're gonna hear some lawnmower in the background. It's just starting to drizzle right now. We're all trying to get things done before it pours rain. So taking a look at the Yamaha's front wheel, you can kind of see their intent with this bike. Now, you have some nice features here. You have the upside down forks here, which is not truly entry level. A lot of times you have right side up forks. This allows for less unsprung weight, and that shows you that Yamaha considered handling on this bike. They could have gone cheaper with the right side up suspension, but no adjustments here, just a simple suspension setup. You do have ABS brakes. I recommend that for everybody really, but especially for beginners. And you have a good sized disc brake. Now the tires themselves are 110/70R17. It's the same size tire between this bike and that bike, but these are a little bit more entry-level rubber. Now, when I say entry-level rubber, what I mean is going down a country road, leaning this over to the edge, you're gonna have all the grip you need. If you were to take this to a racetrack, you may find that you're giving up time to people with better tires. So that's something just to keep in mind there. And the 110 size tire is about a centimeter narrower than the 120s that come on just about every other sport bike. What that does is it's more common on these lighter weight bikes, but it also allows for that really flickable feel. So this bike is a whole lot of fun, and like I said, it really surprised me. I was keeping up with much faster bikes when we were riding this, simply because it was so easy and confidence inspiring to handle. But that's what you've got here. Again, decent sized brake, upside down forks for less unsprung weight, only a single disc. It's not a super fast bike, it's not a super heavy bike, so you can get by with one disc and still have very strong braking. That's what you've got. Let's take a look at actually the opposite side on the KTM, because they actually put the brakes on the opposite side, and I want to show you the brakes as well. So you're gonna notice a theme in this review, and that's that the KTM is very much ready to race. And that's of course what all KTMs say when you turn them on, but I want to be clear that this one really is set up as more of a race capable or race track capable. It's a more focused performance vehicle. It does have a little bit more power. It's a single cylinder instead of a twin cylinder like the Yamaha, but you're going to see some differences here. So first of all, we still have the upside down suspension. It is a thicker suspension, so that's usually a little more common. It's also adjustable, and this is standard. What this does is tell you exactly how much fork travel you've had, and then you can adjust your suspension based on that little telltale. So that is something that is there. Again, nice to have on the adjustable suspension. And then you have this sort of almost this Y-type mounted, this is called a radial mount caliper. These are basically Brembo brakes, essentially a Brembo brake. They are a high performance brake. The mounting that that KTM does here, I don't know if it's just style or lightweight or whatever it is, but it looks pretty cool. It is a little different there. It is also a larger disc than you have on the Yamaha. And then you have down at the bottom here, let's sort of tune in, see if we can get that on camera, the Michelin Power 6 tires. So those are higher performing tires. They have a little bit stickier tires. They may or may not last as long, but they're certainly a higher end tire. And you're gonna notice more of that grip on the extreme angles in the corners. And again, that real flickability on both these bikes with that narrow tire size, but there is a difference in tires there. So you do right away see off the bat, a little bit more performance oriented in the KTM. Now we'll talk about why that may or may not matter to you closer to the end of this video. So by taking a look at the front wheel, you can tell the manufacturer's intent for the bike. And what you have over here is performance-oriented stuff, but still some budget type stuff. The way the brake is mounted, the tire itself, and what you have over here is a more performance-oriented thing. Now with a more performance-oriented bike, comes a less comfortable seating position. So let's show you the seating position on both these. This is designed to be an entry-level bike. Now a lot of these entry-level, or I shouldn't say that, it's designed to appeal to entry-level riders as a thing. So a lot of entry-level riders like lower seat heights and they like sort of more compact, lightweight bikes. So you do get that here. That doesn't mean that a 6-footer like myself, a proportionate 6-footer, can't be comfortable on here. So you can see here, as a 6-footer, I'm easily flat-footing with a knee bend here. The handlebars are nice and in tight, but they're not leaned way over. So when I sit on this bike, I have a nice upright riding position, which is more comfortable in town. Now I say upright for a sport bike. You'll see in a second that the KTM has a little bit more leaned over sport bike. There is a real variance in this class of bike on how upright you sit, but they all have a general overall lean to you, and that's perfectly comfortable when the wind comes around you here. Now what you're looking for in an entry-level sport bike or a small displacement sport bike is still the ability to get in that really tuck tight here, and you have an appropriate tank shape here that allows you to do that, and a good windshield here that will give you that aerodynamic advantage when you get your helmet down in there. And again, I used this to my advantage as I was trying to keep up with faster bikes the other day. This bike really, really impressed me. So don't get too caught up in saying, I want a higher performance bike and I want that one, because this one certainly performed very well, well beyond highway capable speeds, and felt perfectly comfortable doing it, and also very quick in the corners. So even though this is a more comfortable seating position, on a street environment, of any kind of street environment, including country roads, curvy roads, that kind of thing, hilly, curved, those kind of things, you also have a really good feeling of confidence and control on this bike in this seating position. Now jumping across to the KTM. This is a different bike. It's more performance oriented. And the first thing you're gonna notice as you climb across is I am no longer bending my knees. In fact, I'm just a hair tippy-toed. I can force my heels to the ground, but I'm just a hair tippy-toed because the seat is higher. That seat higher and the handlebars lower allow me to be in that more natural tuck position right from the start. So I already have a more aerodynamic position. This is going to be less comfortable on longer rides. Now it depends on what kind of long rides you do. I don't find this particular super sport style bike to be that uncomfortable, but it will depend on who you are, how much weight you want on your wrists, and certainly for a regular commuting, you are gonna find that it does put you at more of an angle. Couple things that does for you in regular commuting. It's easier to see the traffic around you when your head's up than when your head's down, right? So it's something to keep in mind there, but in a track performance type position, going into corners, that lower body position can really help you. It's not that you can't get into it with that, it's just that you're naturally already lower here, and that's gonna give you some aerodynamic advantages and just that really overall sporty feel. But again, you give up some comfort, and on the street, I'm not sure that it's worth it for a lot of people, so keep that in mind. If this is your secondary bike and you want a pure performance bike, that's a great idea. But if you're gonna be riding this as your everyday rider, it's worth noting that some comfort is gonna be given up for the performance. So as we take a look at some of the performance type pieces on this, you still have some disc brakes here again. This is a very fun street bike, and you know, track capable as well. The tire on the back is a 140 series wide, so that's again a little bit narrower than some. It's a 150 on the KTM, so a little bit extra rubber on the road on the KTM, but it also has a little bit more power. both these bikes really lean well. A couple little silly things that you may not notice about, you know, sort of an entry-level bike or a more street-friendly bike compared to the race-focused bike. The seat here, it's not smooth, but it does have a little bit of texture, but it appears very smooth, and it's a leather-like appearance. Now, I'm sure it's not actually real leather, it's a vinyl of some sort, but that's what you have there, and I want to just show you one little difference when we go to the KTM. One other thing I want to show you here, you often see metal pegs with no rubber padding on race bikes. You often see on entry-level bikes that they put some rubber padding on them to keep the vibrations down. This one, I didn't find the vibrations to be a problem for me at all when I was riding, but it does have those metal pegs with no rubber coating. Let's check out the KTM and the same types of things there. So we mentioned that the KTM has a 1 centimeter wider tire, and again, it is the higher end tire. I'm gonna zoom into this seat now, and you can see this is sort of a suede-like look, and that does have a little bit more grip to it. Now, does it make a huge difference in everyday riding? Probably not, but on the racetrack, if you want to make sure you're actually glued to exactly where the seat is, whatever you're wearing is going to grip this a little bit better. Those are those slight differences that you have. You'll also notice the seat is a little shorter here. It doesn't like give you the seat right up there. A lot of time on a dirt bike, you'll have the seat come right up here. On an entry-level bike, you'll have the seat come up a little bit further. But on a race bike, you're going to keep the seat minimal so that whatever you come in contact with is a solid piece. In cornering, for the real extreme, that makes a difference. We have to talk suspension before we go too far, so let's talk suspension right now. We're going to start, give you a little hint to this one, but we're going to start on the Yamaha. So taking a look at the top of your fork tube here, it's the same thing on both sides, but you have nothing. This is what is typical for the class in a bike like this. You're going to have just the regular fork tube, no adjustments. What's really unique about the KTM is what they have. So let's just compare this to what the KTM has. The KTM really sets itself apart with compression and rebound damping. So compression there is the white, the red as we go right across, red for rebound. And the cool thing about this is they are actually adjustable with your hands, right? You can just adjust them. They have a click to them, so you can put them exactly where you want them. A lot of super sport bikes have tools, and what I love about this is like an entry-level super sport bike, so you can start adjusting these on your own and get a sense of what it does to the ride, what it does overall on a racetrack or just at home. And the other thing is KTM tells you in the owner's manual how many clicks. So you turn it all the way right or all the way left, and then you turn it back a certain many clicks. And KTM tells you in the owner's manual how many clicks to set it back for various types of riding, for maybe it's regular riding, for aggressive riding. So whatever it is, it gives you some presets within the owner's manual to set it up sort of from the factory, and then you can start tweaking from there. And if you screw it all up and you don't like the way it's set, you just go back to the owner's manual, you set it up for the default again, and you're good to go. So to me, part of owning a super sport bike is having the ability to tweak that suspension, and this allows you to really get the feel for it without pulling out tools. You can sit there on a country road, do the country road twisty, adjust the suspension, do the country road twisty again, and see if you feel the difference. Both these bikes have rear suspension that's preload adjustable. That's going to adjust for the weight of the rider in the most part. But yeah, having this front suspension and compared to the R3 is a big change. We're going to stay with the KTM here and show you another feature that is a bit more of a more expensive bike feature. It's not necessarily just a super sport feature, but it is something that you get here. And it is the clutch and brake lever have adjustments here. So it's currently set to the 1 right now. If I put my hand sort of right there, you can see it's on my knuckle there. There's 5 different settings here. So we're going to bring it right to the 5 there. And I don't know if I can get it to adjust the right way, but you can sort of feel them clicking into spot there. So there's 3, moves in, 4, 5. The point is there's 5 different settings there. Yeah, there, it's out from that knuckle to there. There's 5 different settings there on the clutch lever adjustment. Now, a lot of people think this is just to fit smaller hands or larger hands, and that could very much be the case. The other thing this is good for, though, is it does allow you to have the grab point of the clutch and the brake exactly where you would want it in the clutch pull. So that's something worth keeping in mind. They put them on performance bikes not just for different size hands, but also to have the feel, to have it grab exactly where you want, to have the brakes grab exactly where you want. The KTM does have this adjuster. On both brake and clutch, the Yamaha does not. We're back over here on the Yamaha and we're going to show you what the dash looks like. So this is not a TFT display, but it's still a digital dash, and it really does give you a lot of information that you would want. You have a fuel gauge over there, you have a pretty clear speedometer there, and the tach over here, most of your lower revs, they just don't matter. This bike doesn't really start making power till about 4,000 or 5,000 RPM. Now what's weird is that you really have some time. It revs and revs and revs to 12,500 RPM before it even hits redline. And what's cool about this small displacement bike is you can really use those revs. It's not like it's running out of power. You've got power in that section, and I mean, I can tell you this goes well beyond legal speeds easily, even legal highway speeds, and it's smooth when it does it. And what's cool about a small displacement bike is you get to rip through those gears, but not have it go so fast that you have to like think about the red line. You can hear it, you can experience it, it's just, in my mind, it's almost more fun to drive a lower displacement bike on the street and drive it harder. Again, is it more fun to drive a slow car fast or a fast car slow? Same thing with the motorcycle. These are so much fun, and what I really enjoyed is it builds power well throughout the rev range, and you feel like you're out of revs at 8,000, you can still rev to 9, to 10, to 11, to 12, and then shift at that point. And you've got that kind of time to continue to build power in the revs. It makes it a whole lot of fun. But the other thing is this engine is pretty good. You can run it in 6th gear down low and lower speeds, but you can also keep it in, 3rd gear at higher revs. So you're working your way through the gears, but you're having fun doing it. So dash-wise, simplicity is the key here. You can select various things. You've got a trip odometer, trip 1, trip 2. You've got some fuel efficiency numbers, liters per 100 kilometers, and fuel efficiency, that's instant and average. And then you're back to the overall trip there and the overall odometer. So you've got some nice features in there, but it's a basic dash, more entry level. KTM, again, steps it up in their more track-oriented bike. So taking a look at this KTM screen here, we're going to turn it on now. One thing that is definitely worth pointing out is that these types of screens, they just don't film well out here in the bright daylight. I can see it quite easily in person here, but you do have more issues seeing it on camera. But you still get the same type of thing down here. You've got your speedometer, you've got your gear indicator, you've got a 10,000 RPM red line on this one, you have a fuel gauge inside and a temperature gauge that's outside that. This one does have ABS and traction control, which again, I've covered better in the full review of this bike. It's got some ride modes as well in there, which tells you all what you need to know. And it's got more controls to cycle through various things. So I like to kind of go back to here, and we'll go into the set screen. You can do the motorcycle settings. Let's just do my motorcycle. So we'll go enter into that. Oh, sorry, that's where we were. We'll go back into those, go into some of the settings down here, and you can cycle through all kinds of different things. So lots of information in here. And again, this is gonna be more useful on a racetrack to have some of the precise type things in here. Again, I won't show you the whole dash, it'll make the video too long, but you do have a little more precision in your controls, including the ability to use the traction control and turn it on or off on the track if you wanted to. And it's a overall more impressive design of the screen here. Now, of course, to control these screens, you have different controls. Let's just take a brief look at the controls before we show you lighting, and we talk about which one of these may be better for you and which one may not be better for you. So staying with the KTM here, again, we didn't really show you everything we need to show you in the dash here, but the idea, of course, is you have more selection in there, and with more selection comes the need for more controls. A very simple to use piece of equipment here on KTMs. Again, I didn't show you everything, and I was kind of fumbling for a second because I wasn't really sure what to show you, but very simple: up, down, set, and go back. You can do these while you're riding. A lot of bikes outside of KTM limit what you can do, but most everything you can do in here. You can set these up as presets to set various things on. You got your signal and horn down there, and then because this is taken up, you haven't got room for a headlight switch. You do what a lot of other bigger bikes do, is you push forward for your high beams, you pull back for your low beams, and then if you just want to flash to pass, you have a trigger right there. So those are the basic controls. Start and kill switch on the other side of the bike, separate start and kill switch on the other side. Let's show you the Yamaha, same controls. So the Yamaha is very similar. Because you don't have as much detail in the settings, you don't have to play with them as much, and in some ways that's a good thing. It keeps your eyes focused on the road instead of on your dash. You've got only a flash to pass here, and you lock your high beam on right there, and then you signal and horn. Now the only thing I didn't love about this is my particular personal bike that I have, and many bikes that I'm familiar with, have the horn underneath the signal. And one time when I was reaching for the signal, I ended up tapping the horn button to turn off the signal instead of that. It's just the way my hand reached across, I felt something and I touched it. The signals are closer, so you will get used to it if you own it, but it is a weird thing to have the horn above the signals. Most bikes have it below the signals, so just one little thing that's different. The only other thing we'll scroll across here to the far side is you do have hazard warning lights, which I really like to have on bikes. So you've got that down here, and this is a start and kill switch all built in one. Hazard lights are just nice to have, just in case you have to stop and, you know, side of the road, figure out where you're going, that kind of thing. Just nice to have that extra visibility. Speaking of visibility, let's take a glance at lighting. There's a difference in lighting on these bikes. And again, that's part of what you pay for with a more expensive bike. Taking a look at the headlights on these bikes, I gotta have them running to show you. You've got nice LED lighting in here, high beams and low beams, and there is daytime running lights outside of just on the corner. I don't know if we can see them while the lights are on, but that little like corner right there with a little bit of a pattern there. I don't know if we can zoom into that. Let's try to do that. Yeah, you can sort of see that pattern up the top of your screen. That is your daytime running light, and then you've got just the regular headlights below that. And then on KTM, same idea. You've got an LED light. The high beams are below right there. But there's one thing I'm not super crazy about on the Yamaha, and I just wish they would make a little change to it. So let's come down here and we'll show you. Right now the Yamaha has these lights lit sort of as marker lights, and that's fine. Actually, we'll just turn the one signal on, right side signal only. And we'll go right side signal as well with this one here. You can see, to me, the KTM just has a nicer signal. You've got very older style incandescent light bulbs there, and then you've got the built-in signal lights there on the KTM. To me, I wish Yamaha would just put, even if you want to do the stocks, just put LED lights in there. I think it would really modernize the look of this bike, and it would be harder to tell it from a bigger bike. But one thing worth pointing out there. So let's talk about which bike is best for you. And this is where, especially if you're a newer rider or if you're looking for that secondary bike, I feel like you're being misled by a lot of motorcycle journalists, because most of the motorcycle journalists that have the good jobs with the big channels and all that have a lot of experience with a whole lot of bikes, and they don't pay for their own bikes themselves. They have access to a whole bunch of bikes, and they usually have a lot of race experience. So if you've got a lot of race experience, this one's probably going to be the better one. In other words, if you can ride this well and the bike gets this well, that's what you want. But if you can ride this well and the bike is this good, then that one's not as good. But here's the reality. Most of us can ride this well. And the R3 is this good, and the RC390 is that good. The point is, if the bike is above your ability, you will have fun regardless of which one you're on. Now, I will say, this one blew me away with how good it is. Again, this is kind of the entry-level sport bike. There are things like the Ninja 500 with more power. There are people that fall in love with power. I don't think that you should necessarily always do that. There is a whole lot of fun in driving this bike with 300cc, give or take, all around, even as an entry-level setup. And I was shocked at how well I was able to keep up with other bikes because it is so confidence inspiring. This one is not going to be quite as confidence inspiring right from the get-go. It's going to take a little bit of a learning curve, but you can continue to grow with it more. If you like the idea of a small bike where you're whipping it through the gears, where your skill is what's going to make you fast rather than your right hand being able to push a bunch of cylinders in a huge hurry, this bike will give you more runway. It's going to allow you to learn the suspension. It's going to allow you to learn the body positioning a little bit better. It's a little bit more precise. It is less comfortable. So that's one thing here. You can move to this bike and really learn to drive very well, but you can also do that here and have a whole lot of fun. So which one would I get? If I want to save some money, this one is going to teach me to be a better rider every single time I ride it, whether I'm a new rider or an experienced rider. This one here is going to take me to that next level. You could ride this as a beginner, but it's really going to take an experienced rider to be a much, much better rider. And that's kind of where I see the differentiation between the two. That's where I'm going to leave it today. I have individual reviews of both these bikes. If you have questions, make sure you let me know the things you want to know, because I can come back to these bikes again and again and again. But it's just starting to rain, so that seems like a great time to wrap it up. Thanks McLean Sports for letting me have access to their vehicles. You guys give them a like, maybe subscribe to the channel on their stuff. You can come see these bikes for yourself. We'll chat with you in the next one.